Hi everyone, thank you for joining today. I am joined by Giannis from Saudia Airlines, and he's here today to talk to us a little bit about their journey on the revenue management solutions. So to kick things off, we'll start with the easiest questions. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your role at Saudia, and how long you've been there.
Great, thank you, Justin. I've been 2.5 years with Saudi Airlines, and I'm the VP of Commercial, so responsible for revenue management and pricing on different things. There is a great transformation that is happening right now, Saudi Airlines and the Saudi Airlines group. And I'm part of that transformation in order to just change the airline to be able to accommodate all the growth that is happening, the different demand for that type of growth. And at the same time keep the profitability and make the airline successful, because you cannot just lose your sight of the fundamentals for the airline business.
Before choosing the PROS revenue management system, can you describe what you were using before and what challenges you were facing before you made the decision to go to PROS?
Yes, we had a leg revenue management system from a different provider. We had actually a number of challenges, but summarized, there were two areas. One was actually the people. Although they have like very good background, a lot of them many years of experience, they were not really trained in demand forecasting. Even the roles and responsibilities were not very clear. So they were, pretty much going on a gut feeling many times because they know the market, but they ended up adjusting a lot of things at the inventory, not even at the system. So they were not applying demand adjustments, price adjustments. They were not really working with the system. And that brings us to the second part, which was actually the system itself had like very, very low forecast accuracy. Actually, I've never seen like so low before. And it was a chicken egg situation, because if you don't work with the system, trying to improve the system, trying to influence the system will never learn. And if it doesn't learn, you don't trust it, and so on.
You talked a lot about forecasting and pricing decision making as part of that. Can you talk about how the PROS system has changed that? What are the things that you've been able to do inside of PROS that have helped shift it from what you had before to where you are today?
Yeah, it's really flipped on its head, because we addressed both of those issues, because our approach was actually, you can bring the best system, but we're still not in a position where we have some machine learning system that we can all go on vacation, the system is going to do RM by itself. It was not that. So we had to train the people too. And with PROS, we worked very well together in order to approach both of them at the same time, which was actually, it was very aggressive timeline, but it worked. Without having too much data for the system, also, we actually had to work very fast in order to just prep the system. But at the end of the day, we managed to change the fundamentals of how people work, how they understand the demand forecast, and how they are applying the strategy, how they translate the strategy into the demand adjustments, into the price adjustments. So how they are actually active users of the system. Also understanding their roles. So we went through the full training with the PROS University. So from the new analyst that they were coming as a price analyst, as demand analyst, as a flight analyst, all the way to the managers and the managerial tasks that they have to do in order to manage and cascade down the strategy. All of that was very clear, and it took a while. It was actually multiple sessions of training, both online and on-site, in order to do that. And on the system side, we calibrated the system before we went live with a lot of help from PROS and the power users from our side, in order to just get to a very good level. So we started, already with a much better level than, what we had before, even from day one. So it was actually a great improvement.
Yeah, I think I've heard that quite a few times now, that like you can get the system in place that's the best system, but without the training and the way to use it, it's sort of lost. And you mentioned something specifically about even the manager level and above. It's not just about the users, but it's that confidence in the managers and even your level and even above your level to buy into that strategy. Is that something that's been part of the strategy for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll give you an example. We told them that when we're going to go live, we're going to block access to the analyst on the Altea inventory because we're on Altea for the inventory. And then we're actually going to the Altea inventory, which to me is actually the master power switch, right? You want to turn on the light to, the kitchen, but you go and you turn on, on and off the master switch. But that's how they were used to work, right? With that, they were panicking because actually this is my tool. It's like, well, this is not supposed to be a tool, but get them to understand, get them to win. It was not actually about forcing it to them. It was actually when the day came and they already put the demand adjustments. They were really looking the forecast quality, and they were putting the special events and all of those things. And they could see how that was affecting the output. Then they say, oh, okay, well, I can do whatever I want. It's like, yes, it's just actually you change the way you work and how you work with the system, right? And they like that because actually the system now start producing good results, so they could trust it, right? I mean, before that we could not trust the demand forecast. So if somebody was asking what's the demand forecast or what's the revenue forecast for the next month, we could not answer, right? I mean, because it was so low that the accuracy was very low. So right now, the analyst or the senior analyst, the manager, doesn't matter what level, they were used to now not trust the system, and now all of a sudden they say, I can trust it. It guides me, and based on that, I can adjust furthermore and work with that, right? So this, it was a fundamental change.
I think the word trust really is an important part of the whole discussion, because ultimately trust doesn't just mean trusting blindly and just understanding, like it's fine. But the trust part also says when things are, going as different from expected, you're getting, how to react to the system. So that's one of the questions I had was around the market shifts that are happening. I think one of the things that's happening at Saudia is a shift from the type of traffic you want to take. You want to broaden out, make Saudi Arabia more of a place that's a connecting hub and that kind of thing. So with those shifts happening, how are the analysts reacting to those types of changes that are happening in the market?
Yeah, so there are actually there are two steps in that. So the first step was actually when we went live with RME, which is we're live right now. It was actually understanding better, like I said, demand influences, understand the point of sale influence, because you're right, with all of this expansion and the country how it's opening up, we've seen a lot of demand from foreign point of sale. Traditionally before it was actually more the Saudi point of sale, and in the foreign point of sale it was primarily groups. Right now you have groups, you have individuals, the visa system is very efficient, so you have a mix, and like any typical airline. So now it's actually about managing the mix and improving that mix. So so that was the one thing that they got better, because again they could see the mix and they can actually adjusting the influences, because there's a big seasonality like in every place, and at the same time we have like a big number of groups which affects your inventory. But then the second step is actually the O&D, which we're very fast. We're going to that, and we're cutting over in a few months to RMA, and that was all along the plan. But we wanted to do it in a step approach. And with the RMA now, we're addressing the second part, which is actually connecting passengers, and again improving the demand, improving the mix, understanding the demand analyst, understanding the hub. There was no hub group to manage the hub, because connecting passengers were actually just a small minority, and that includes even the partners, the codeshare and so on. So now we have a hub structure with well-defined banks, both Jeddah and Riyadh, but primarily Jeddah, and that needs to be managed obviously in a much better way, and we're getting very good at that. This is part of the training that's happening right now for the prep of the system as part of the O&D transition. And then we have actually the other thing I want to mention is the GSO, right? Because groups, it's a big part of our business. I mean, it's not surprising because you have the religious group, and then you have the labor groups, and now you have more and more the leisure groups. So it's a big part of the business, and there were problems because the group inventory was not flowing through the revenue management system. So it was pretty much, you have now 40% of your business actually, and if you look market by market, 4% is an average. You have markets, and especially this time of the year where you have more religious, that they can be 70 or 80. Sure. So you have like 70 or 80% of your inventory that is not being forecasted, is not even being looked at, right? I mean, so then what are we talking about? So this is actually something that we wanted to flow through obviously through the revenue management system. So have like the groups and revenue management and the retail revenue management system working together. And then of course, improving the groups itself, the pricing, the forecasting, the materialization rates, the key attributes that they drive the decisions for the groups, which that, helps. So a lot of things happening together, which is obviously just by listing them quickly here, you understand there was a lot of good cooperation that needed, because you can go crazy and overwhelm the analyst, you can disrupt your business, and that's not obviously something that you want, because you're running a business and the world doesn't stop, so we have issues and affecting demand and prices and so on, and we have to do that while we're calibrating, rolling out, and all of those nice things and training that we discussed.
So I think a nice segue is benefits, right? So
Yeah.
I know it's pretty early on since the system's been live, 6 months or so roughly, right?
A little more actually. The RME went live last August.
August, okay.
So it was August 2024.
So almost a year now.
Almost a year.
What sort of benefits are you seeing so far from the system?
Well, the demand forecast and revenue forecast. So we're talking about over 90% accuracy, which is, I mean, we were talking about less than 20%. I haven't seen that low, and then this is actually, great improvement. And we did that, mind you, by warming up the system with less than a year of data. So actually, the RME went live with, I would say, like 5 months. So we had to do a lot of work to count and load on your algorithms and the logic that you have on the top of us working together in order to just prep the system, because obviously you don't go live, with 4 or 5 months. You have to really build it up to the point that the system can be trained. And still, we're reaching that level of forecast accuracy. At the same time, and the system, again, is not the only thing, obviously, because we're talking about a lot of training and much better ways of working and managing the demand. We've had a tremendous increase on all the traditional KPIs. So we're talking about RASK and yield that they have actually double-digit increase year over year. And in a challenging environment, because actually it's not actually that everything is rosy out there. As we know, there are things that are happening, and especially in the region. But we had actually double-digit improvement, connecting passengers, foreign point of sale increase. So every aspect that we had for the hub improvement, for the RASK and yield, for the effectiveness of the price points. So everything we looked at, it has been improving. And again, it's not just the system. To me, actually, a lot of work happened of retraining those great analysts we had. Those guys that were coming with a lot of passion. You have a lot of young guys with a lot of good education, experience, and love for the company, for the country. So they really want it. You could see them, how happy. It's. I think the other day I was counting, it's my 9th cutover in revenue management system, and different countries, different environments. Usually people are just more reluctant because it's a change, no matter what. These guys were happy because the moment they start seeing the results, they could see that they have a tool that they can trust and they can work, and that tool produced something that they are proud. So they were proud for their work. And they're the best ambassadors, honestly.
Yeah, that's really great. To have that connection to, the system is one part of it, but just the interest and the passion for being successful, that makes a huge difference. So that's really great. So the last question we kind of wrap up on is, what advice would you give to other airlines that are considering new Pros RM system, new group system? What advice would you give them when making that decision?
Well, First of all, it's not just the system, because there's this argument out there. Okay, how much you can improve the algorithm, how much the math improve. I mean, I don't see so many papers there that just come up with something crazy out there that nobody has thought, right? So at the end of the day, it's not actually that the system has such a different algorithm than the other one. It's how everything comes together, right? So, so the advice for me was actually just to look how the ecosystem is going to work, because revenue management is part of a commercial ecosystem. So you have to see how that works and how that is going to align with your strategies. If you are a major carrier in a joint venture and you're doing bid price exchange, it's very different than if you're a regional carrier and you're doing point to point, right? And if it was some system is very successful in one, doesn't mean it's going to be in the other one. It's not one size fits all. That's the one thing. So to understand, that ecosystem. The second one is actually look the support. I mean, I was happy to find that with pros, but even if you're a very experienced leader, even if you have a very experienced team, still a cutover is a cutover, right? And you may have issues. And actually, it's not a cutover, it's actually the day after the cutover. Because even if the cutover goes seamless and great, you may have a problem a week later, 2 weeks later, and then this is about the support. This is about the continued support, so you have a trusted partner, and it's not about a blame game or whatever. It's actually we work together in order to just figure out the goods and the bads. And then, and if there's something different, some adjustment, that we work on that adjustment. It's not actually, oh, I'm sorry, now we cut over. Oh, this is actually something very specific to Saudi Airlines, and nobody's asking about it, so I don't know what you're talking about. So this is actually, every airline is different, every environment is different, so have to really pay attention to that support, because it's going to come back and bite you. I mean, it doesn't matter, like I said, your experience.
Sure. Well, I really appreciate the insights that you've been able to provide today. This is really great, and definitely thank you for the support and all of the insights that you were able to provide.
Great,
Thank you
very
Justin.
much.